good, guys? It's Ilson 4K, and today we're continuing onward with Horror-ween 3 Into the Unknown with a very special edition of Found Footage Fridays. Yes, and for those of you asking, what the hell is Horror-ween? Horror-ween is a month-long celebration of horror movies that take place on or around Halloween that we do here on my channel for the third year in a row, and this year we're looking at the lesser-known films in the genre versus the more well-known ones, and this one right here is the one that if there's nothing else on this list that you watch, you absolutely watch this one, because this is actually an analog horror entry, and this is why we're using Found Footage Friday. Now, I've covered analog horror here before, so make sure you check the link in the description down below to see an example of it, but understand that this is like nothing else I think I've ever seen, not just in the analog horror sense, but in the sense of horror movies in general. This is something that's just so brilliantly well done that it basically works like this. It's acting as if it's a full-on broadcast from 1987 from a horror movie station that's having a Halloween special on the WNUF, which is the facetious news station that they're having this whole affair on, and it's going down that they're going to go look at this haunted house. During that time, there's actually interviews, and there's cartoons, and there's commercials from the 1987 era that are shot in that style, even though this film came out in 2015. This film absolutely captivates a whole audience of people that remember this style, and for those of you that don't even know what this is about, you definitely need to watch it. So if you're really ready to take a trip down memory lane, if you're one of those people that remember this, and see something like you've never ever seen before, make sure you tune in on how to get this video, because sometimes it's available on a website, and sometimes you have to buy it secondhand from the eBay, Amazon sites, but this is definitely a film that you absolutely have to see, as it was worth all the trouble I went through to try and find it. So make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and make sure you stick around all month long for more Horror-ween 3 Into the Unknown horror movie reviews. The magic of this film is really in its plot and how well executed it is. It is, of course, a Fox News report from October 31st, 1987 from a news channel called WNUF. And how it works is later on in the evening, around 8:30, they're going to showcase someone who goes to a haunted house that's supposedly in the town where a murder was committed by the son who apparently was possessed by a Ouija board, and the individual who is at the house is waiting to get inside of it is pretty much laughing off all the affairs that it really happened. During that time, the news anchors who aren't there are literally having the time of their lives, making Halloween jokes, covering all these affairs, and it eventually gets to a point where we start seeing all these commercials from that era that really break up all the monotony of waiting for the time to come where they finally get to the house. When they finally do get in the house, things is where things get really nuts. We see the guy who is doubting it, the newscaster, coming to realize that this is a little bit more than he thought, as the two people he bought that are paranormal investigators come and have their equipment smashed, and then their cat gets killed. Yes, a cat gets killed in this house. Moving forward from there, things start flying around the house, and things get absolutely more and more chaotic, and they keep on cutting to commercial breaks, and every time they cut to a commercial break, it's another affair of like a lumber yard, or a pizza place, or a tampon commercial, and it just keeps on doing their best to try and break up this monotony of the fact that what's going on is absolutely real, and this whole affair of it being fake is absolutely off. People die. More or less, the father that they hired, a priest, turns out to be a paid actor who can't even be a priest and can't even perform the exorcism that he claimed he was going to be able to perform, as he goes off on camera and pretty much tells them, I am a paid actor, you know this, you know I can't perform an exorcism, you said this wasn't going to be real, and it's just one of those films that has this charm and element of thing to it that you really got to see to appreciate. It's one of those things that really has a twist ending that's really spooky, but the whole thing is just so perfectly well done, because again, during the timeline of everybody sitting there talking about the build-up to this, these 1987 commercials breaking it all up, and the newscasting types and the graphics, man, it's just so fantastic. So when I first read like what this was supposed to be, I was like, this is too good to be true, man. This can't really be that good. And it really was that good. I mean, this is like a cinematic horror masterpiece. Even if you aren't into the whole analog horror style, I promise you, you will like this film. This is the analog horror film that is for everybody. I just am absolutely enamored with how well it was pulled off. And what's really crazy about it is, like, the best thing about it, if I had to tell you why, is its execution is perfect.
Goblins and heathens are united to praise the Prince of Darkness. Members of Harvest are making strong efforts.
I mean, it is one of the few perfectly executed horror movies out there. I mean, it really just completely blew me away. It was made, or it takes place the year after I was born. I was born in 86, this takes place in 87. I grew up seeing all of that stuff, and that's exactly what it looked like. The local lumberyard or whatever, all that stuff was actually commercials I grew up seeing and like knowing. And in that low quality effect of how it looked, that was really how it looked back then. The local broadcasting network, and it just captured everything perfectly. And
trick-or-treating, it's the new Halloween makeup kit by French Johnson. Use a wide variety of colors and creams to transform you and your...
I actually grabbed my mom and said, "Mom, you have to come see this. You're going to be blown away by this." I remember watching it. I was like, "Guess when this was made?" She had no idea this was made in like the mid-2010s. She was absolutely floored and thought it was the funniest thing, because then she later walked in during a tampon commercial and we had a good laugh over that. She's like, "Wow, this thing really does think of everything." I was like, "It absolutely does." And it's just something that was just perfectly executed.
Okay, well, when we come back, we're going to talk to the paranormal, actually they're a husband-wife team, Claire and Lewis.
You have these individuals during the commercials that really just tie everything together. Like I said, the local pizzeria guy, the local woodworking guy, everybody is just so well cast and acted, and they completely understood the assignment at hand, because apparently everybody who made one of those commercials was a different director, and they all contributed to make this huge analog horror thing, and it's really fascinating to think about that. I'm not gonna lie, I'm almost at a loss of words for its sheer brilliance, but it's one of those things that once you've seen it and once you appreciate it, you almost wonder how anything you could ever see could ever compare to it again.
Broadcast from a supposedly haunted house later this evening.
That's right, Deborah. For those just tuning in, reporter Frank Stewart has...
But the greatest thing about this film that really makes it work is the payoff. The payoff is actually there. When they go and do this whole haunted house affair that they've been building up to, it kind of goes from a comedy horror to straight up a horror movie. Even though it has some comedic undertones, it gets pretty crazy pretty fast.
What are you talking about? They're not down here. Veronica, get...
And the fact that this whole film is just so well done that it's able to shift the tone like that and really go from A to B and then back to A and then go to Z, it really like plays on your emotions of what it's trying to do. And I think it's just so well done and so perfectly crafted. And like I said, it's just perfectly executed in that way that it just, you understand what it's trying to do right away. It's one of my favorite things I think I've ever seen, and I totally recommend it to you. And what's even crazier is there's actually a sequel to it as well. Now here's what I really had a lot of fun with about this film. I thought I couldn't find this film, and I thought it was going to suffer the same fate as my Happy Halloween FDM Productions video, but through a little bit internet sleuthing, I actually found a version of it online, and then from there I actually found out you can actually buy this thing when it's in stock from Terror Vision, which I'll leave a link below where you can buy this, and the sequel, which I cannot wait to review next year. But yes, there is a sequel to this as well there you can buy as the Terror Vision. It seems like it's one of the coolest things I've ever seen, and it makes me want to go get a Blu-ray player. But again, this is a film that you definitely need to see just for the sheer spectacle of it, because it's magnificent. I mean, it is a one-of-a-kind affair, and it just really puts a smile on my face. One of the fascinating things about the whole analog horror genre is it's kind of like a lesser-known entity, and it's at times somewhat shapeless. You have your simpler affairs such as the smile tapes, and then you have videos like this that are absolutely insane and need to be seen by everyone, which begs the question, how did people come to find out about this? There aren't even end credits at the end of this thing to let you know that it's like something that's fake. What apparently the rumor is what they did is when this came out, they started leaving it in like tape bins and leaving it at like collector shows and other places where people who would look at this stuff gather, and people were watching it and thought it was something real until it later came out, of course, that it was something that somebody made, and the director completely explained that it was just this whole idea of a mass marketing scheme that seemed to really work from what I understood, and that's so the story goes, and I kind of believe it. And it really makes me think about the fact that that's what indie horror is all about, really. Being as creative as possible to get your product out there in a world where the guy with the most money wins, and you are far from the guy with the most money. I mean, they really made it happen. And again, the fact that there's a sequel to this, I definitely need to watch, and I cannot wait to look forward to. But this thing right here is just really special, and it's something I think you should totally watch. And that's my synopsis on this whole film. Please comment down below if you have seen this before, and like I said, let me know how you feel about it, if you thought it was cool, if you thought it was too much. Let me know if you've seen the sequel, and definitely go check out the TerrorVision store where you can buy this one and the sequel if it's available, because it's limited quantities, right now in the link in the description. And don't forget to make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you catch me all month long for Horror-ween 3, Into the Unknown, more horror movie reviews of horror movies that nobody seems to know about, such as this one. And make sure you catch me every Thursday night, 9 p.m, twitch.tv/ILTV 4K, streaming for the Total Terror Thon Thursday. That's Eastern Standard Time. And don't forget, 10:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time as well, Spooktactular Saturday night stream. You can catch me streaming horror gaming there as well, all month long. And one last thing, don't forget, you're watching ILTV, where if it's pop culture, you know it pops up here. Happy Halloween on behalf of ILTV, where if it's pop culture, you know it pops up here.